Good sticks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective, hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and they're no longer in the playoff bubble, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. Due to the foul powers that be in the NHL scheduling department, the Avalanche only played 2 games since the last time we were with you, only to then play 3 games in 4 days upcoming. That includes another back-to-back. Isn't that fun? Anyways, there was still lots that happened this week, including a Scott Wedgewood extension that presents an interesting predicament for Avalanche goaltending going forward. Our first power rankings of the season are here. Let's see how Dom ranked them and how much I disagree with him. The Avalanche, despite the scores, played 2 close games this week that were close for different reasons, shall we say. The Sharks somehow lost to the new worst team in the NHL, and it was not close. All this and more on this week's episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. Alrighty,
and can
everybody.
I say really quick before you dive in?
You may.
I honestly, like you said, losing to the new worst team, and it was not close. It was ugly. The Sharks also basically played only 2 games this week because I will not have a lot to talk about that one. So, folks, we got the power rankings, and it's about a quarter of the way through the season, so I'm excited when we get there. But, Captain, sorry for that detour.
It's okay.
Take us away.
Not your favorite week, so your highlight this week is going to be those power rankings. But we do have a lot to talk about, so we're going to get moving today. First and foremost, Scott Wedgewood.
Whoop, whoop.
The Lumberyard is staying together. At least one more year. Oh my God. That's right. The Avalanche last Thursday, the day the new episode of this show comes out, signed goaltender Scott Wedgewood, who is rapidly becoming my father, to a 1-year extension of a value of $2.5 million. For a cap-strapped Avalanche, is it a bit much? I might think so, but has Scott Wedgewood made himself worth that plus more? Absolutely. His play and stepping up to start this season absolutely warrants that pay, although you wish if the Avs were going to do that they would have signed him to 2 years rather than 1, but it might not be in the Avalanche's best interests to even do that. First and foremost, Scott Wedgewood has been an absolute stalwart for this team. He has elevated his play and is legitimately playing the best hockey of his entire career after being a career backup. Technically speaking, he still is. Following the Islanders game, although that has changed as of the recording of this episode because NHL hockey is played on a nightly basis, Scott Wedgewood was the best goaltender in the NHL. No, that is not hyperbole or subjective opinion. He had the best save percentage and goals against average amongst all goaltenders and was number 1 over Connor Hellebuck. Holy shit.
Holy shit.
That was, at least for a fleeting moment, but the fact that the Avalanche have a goaltender in top 5 in both categories, because he's still in the mix, feels so good because of the abysmal goaltending of yesteryear. Regardless of if he continues to play more of a starter role this year or splits time with Blackwood or maybe takes a step back more into that backup role, what Wedgewood has done at the beginning of this season is going to be a difference maker for this Avalanche team. They needed the extra couple of points last year, and they couldn't get them because the season ran out. Because of their awful start, they placed 3rd in the division instead of 2nd. This year, they've gotten that and more. Gotten a good start. I realize now how that sounds. They've gotten a good start and more. This team still only has one loss in regulation, and Scott Wedgewood is a massive reason for that. So he's earned that contract, and he's already beloved here in Colorado and filled the massive hole that was left by the retirement of Avalanche legend Pavel Francouz, and is now the backup everyone loves. Scott, I need your jersey. But this does present an interesting predicament for the Avalanche in net. I am not quite sure what their plan is going forward, and I am genuinely having some difficulty in determining what they want to do. Currently, the Avalanche have a decently strong goaltending pipeline with Ilya Nabokov on loan back in the KHL, but my understanding at the start of this season was for him to play his full season in the KHL and then head over to the AHL in March following the conclusion of the KHL season and get games in there and possibly see some NHL action. Following that, he was possibly going to step up next season in 2026 as his entry-level contract expires at the end of this next season, and I'm not sure if the Avs wanted to burn that, but now with Wedgewood coming back, I'm not entirely sure what the Avalanche want to do regarding Nabokov. There can be risk keeping Russian players in the AHL, as they often just want to go back to Russia if they're not playing in the NHL. It also seemed like the Avs were eager to get Nabokov here in the U.S. and playing American-style hockey. I'm talking in circles at this point, and I'm not in the know enough to really know what the Avalanche seek to do with their goaltending situation. It's a great problem to have, frankly, as the Avalanche went from having the literal worst goaltending to one of the best tandems in the league. And to have a super talented young goaltender in your pipeline to worry about is certainly nice. You just can't lose him because Wedgewood is still on the older side, and you want to make sure you have a viable replacement to eventually fill his shoes. For now, we'll just enjoy what we have.
As you should, Corey, and as all of Avs fans should, because you have, I'll say it, the best 1A, 1B in the league. And if it's not the best, then I've said it multiple times, it's top 5. I know that Blackwood is the perceived 1A, but until he's fully recovered from his injury and back into top form, I'm sorry. I'm of the perspective that Wedgewood is your 1A. He's no longer the backup, and he shouldn't be. He has played like a starter. He has played a starter number of games. He leads the league in wins. So even if on the depth chart he goes down as a backup, in reality, until Blackwood is back at his full strength and at 100%, because I still don't think he is. I think it takes a little bit of time after being injured to knock off the rust and get back into a rhythm, right? As a goaltender starting every year, that's why we see big shifts from year to year with goaltenders, is that time off and just resettling back into that rhythm. But until he does, Wedgie's a good 1A. And I'll pause there for a minute because I know you and I had a conversation about Nabokov, and I still have some ideas for how that all could work out.
Well, for one thing, with Wedgewood, it was really cool during his TNT interview not too long ago, just with how intelligent he is. He talks about his preparation where he'll go in and he'll try and memorize how every single player on the other team shoots so he can always be the best prepared for when they're coming down on him in the pipe. And he just plays a simple style. It's not overcomplicated. He's not super flashy. So the fact that he had a couple backflip saves against the Islanders was a bit out of character, although super fun to watch. But I mean, he's just solid, and he's always had solid numbers, but the Avalanche have always had a really good way of elevating these players that they find. And I mean, it just goes to show how good the Avalanches, we talked about it last week, their pro scouting is, that they went out when they knew they needed a new goaltender and they identified Wedgewood and they're like, that is our guy. And they have turned somebody who, again, career backup into somebody with starting potential who is this old and this far along in his career. Sorry, Wedgewood, I'm not trying to call you old, but you're old in terms of athletic terms. He's old, but yeah. What are your thoughts on Nabokov, though, Dom?
Well, I think he is an extremely talented youngster with pedigree, and obviously he is the son of the great Evgeny Nabokov for the Sharks, right? So there is that pedigree there as well. But he still is untested in the NHL. And my thought is that with how significantly different it is playing in the KHL versus American style hockey, a young goaltender, it's not like they're playing every night and the pace of the game is incredibly different. I think it takes nearly a full season in the AHL, or at least half a season, not just, at the very end of the KHL season, we're going to append a few games and see how it goes. it could be a little bit of a trial by fire. And if the Colorado Eagles are going into Calder Cup playoffs and Nabokov is helping carry them there, then sure, he could push the envelope and bring this issue to the forefront sooner than I expect. But if you're looking halfway through next year, and that's when Nabokov is starting to push for a roster spot legitimately on a nightly basis and to be part of the Avalanche's official roster for the NHL level, that is not a bad thing. But what signing Wedgewood does is for your two goaltenders, Blackwood and Wedgewood, if you need to clear a spot for Nabokov, that's fine. You use the whichever goaltender you want to keep and put the other one out there on the market as trade bait and see what teams come looking and how you can get that center depth and those type of things that we talk about that contenders are looking for. And when you have Wedgewood on a 1-year contract, that makes him very easy to, even at a 2.5 million salary, which in my opinion is still not that expensive. I think it's very well valued for what he is providing this year. I think it's a good deal for the Avalanche. But what you can do is if you're flipping him, teams know they're getting a rental potentially, or try to keep him as the backup, try to get some security. If they have a goaltender injury, he can be the guy in a pinch and the Avalanche can get a ransom for him. But either way, you're guaranteeing a return on investment because now Wedgewood won't be bought in free agency and you still have Blackwood under contract. So if Ilya Nabokov is good enough to force his way into the league, you're guaranteeing that you can trade off one of the other goaltenders. I guess you're not guaranteeing, but based on the pedigree and the play, it's a good chance that you'd be able to flip him for something. And so I think it's a shrewd move, also keeping it to 1 year. I think if they did sign Wedgewood for 2 years, it would create a much bigger issue with Nabokov. So, I those are some of my general thoughts on the topic, because I think Nabokov is a good prospect, but he's still unproven. And right now, Wedgewood is playing the best he has ever. So you got to keep that going and capitalize on that when you're a contender.
Fair points. And I'd feel so icky though if we traded Wedgewood. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It would feel icky nonetheless. And obviously, this club has traded away quite a few of its big prospects. I really would like them to avoid trading Ilya Nabokov, especially because then if you hold on to him, then you possibly have your goaltending of the future, regardless of if he's unproven or not. Then that can hopefully extend the Avalanche's contender window going forward. But we'll see, because every year everybody gets older. But, I appreciate your thoughts. And really, we'll know what their plan is as we go forward. All we can do is wait, and time will only tell. But, Dom, I think it's time for... Wait, are we going to say this is the Thanksgiving Power Rankings? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I would call it the Thanksgiving Power Rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some teams have something to be thankful for. Some teams maybe less so, but everyone has something to be thankful for this time of year. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to attempt to make a Power Rankings and enjoy laughing at myself later on down the line, as I'm sure all of you who are listening will, based on my takes at this point in the season. And of course, this year, with how everything's at, it was even more difficult than it has ever been for me to try to make a Power Rankings. So, Corey, do you have any fun introduction before I just start diving right into it?
I do. First and foremost, I'll say that everybody's Power Rankings that you read, watch, look at are probably going to be a little bit different. Like bottom and top, relatively the same. And then it's the mushy middle, especially because everybody in the East is all like within a point of each other. So there's that. And also, if you think differently, that's good. Share with us your Power Rankings or where you think other teams should go. I was also reminded, though, when we talked about Thanksgiving, next week, everyone, the episode will release on Wednesday. because Dom and I will be going to the Avalanche Sharks game next Wednesday, so we can't record then. We're not going to record on Thanksgiving night, and I don't want to push an episode all the way until Friday. And nobody wants to listen to an episode on Thanksgiving. You don't want to listen to a podcast. You want to talk about politics at the family dinner table. So we're going to bring you your episode a little early next week, so just keep that in mind. Now then, it's time for the Thanksgiving Power Rankings. Alrighty, Dom. Who you got?
There we go.
32 through 16, I'd say.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank
or
you for
however
that
you
intro,
want to do it,
'cause
I guess.
I
What
just,
am I talking about?
yeah. No, it's a good point about Thanksgiving, and I'm very thankful. I just like to say right now, and I obviously will say it again next week, but very thankful to get to go to the game with you, see some Sharks hockey here in Colorado, and we actually get that twice this year. So first time of that. Very excited. And so I know we're going to be a little bit off schedule, and it might not be the first time. Looking all the way ahead to a month from now, I think
It won't.
Christmas Eve time falls similarly
Oh, God.
with a Wednesday, so it might need to be a Tuesday thing again. But
Christmas
we'll get there
is
when we get
on
there.
a Thursday. Oh, my, bro. Best Christmas present ever. Yeah, I'm thankful for you taking me to the game. So thank you, Dom. But see, we're trading because Dom got me this ticket for this game, but then I got him the ticket for the next game. So it all works out.
Well, and actually, both of us, and I'll extend our thanks for both of us, but both of us have to thank my stepdad, James, the one who I think he's the one who won our brackets last year when we talk about playoff brackets, actually. So
Damn, James, you
shout out
cooking.
to James. If/when you hear this, we just all appreciate you very much. And I won't say that Corey loves you, but I certainly love you, and I'm glad to have you in my life, regardless of any Sharks game tickets. But that is an especially nice perk this year.
Yeah, love's a strong word for me. I appreciate it, though. I appreciate always spending time with your family, Dom, getting to meet people in your life that you care about. Don't appreciate you kicking my ass in the bracket, but that would be the case with anybody who placed higher than I did, so don't feel too bad.
Huh. Yeah, certainly. So, but enough of the side tangents. Power rankings take long enough as it is.
I know,
so
seriously, we got to
I'm
roll.
gonna tackle these. I don't know if I want to go 16 to 32 because the mushy middle isn't so simple. So I'm just gonna start by saying 32 to 25, 26 are the teams that I think are actually just bad. And Corey, this might not be the team you expect at 32, but I have the Nashville Predators as 32 in my power rankings instead of the Calgary Flames, who are statistically the worst team in the NHL. I have them at 31.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of take it or leave it. Neither of these teams can generate very much offense. Like if we go to goals for per game NHL, we take a quick peek here. Goals per game. Yep, let's take a look here. I mean, all the way. Yeah, I mean, both these teams are the bottom. So you can kind of just take your pick here. Neither one of them can generate any kinds of offense. 2.1 for Calgary, 2.4 for Nashville. So it's interchangeable. You can't go wrong. And then, I mean, you look at, and I won't go this deeply for every team, but just to make a point here to say that you're not wrong. Goals against per game, you go down to the bottom. There's Nashville at 29, allowing 3.5 per game. Calgary's actually a little better, only allowing 3.1 at 18. But, I mean, these teams aren't scoring, and they're getting scored on. So what else can you really say?
Yeah, I think Nashville's big issue is they made all those big splashy free agent signings, and it could have gone one of two ways. And
still ass a year later.
well, yeah, I think those contracts are bloated. They can't move them, and some of those guys are a little bit washed. It is what it is. They're not bad players. They're just not the stars that they used to be and are getting paid like. So they don't have the money to pay actual star players because it's going to guys who probably belong on a third line now at this point in their career. And, well, somebody's got to play on the top line in Nashville. So doesn't look too pretty for the next few years for Nashville. Our condolences. Also, maybe I'm just a biased Sharks fan who watched my team get demolished in just the worst fashion by Calgary. So I didn't want them to be number 32, so I could at least feel slightly better about myself. But we'll keep it rolling at number 30. And I was wrong, folks. I picked them to make the playoffs at the start of the preseason, but the St. Louis Blues are awful. They are so bad. Ass. That's what you always say, Corey. And I don't think I can say ass the same way you can. So
don't sell yourself
I'll
short.
just go
that
with
was pretty
awful.
good. That was pretty good.
And where would we be if it wasn't at the bottom of the league? It's the Buffalo Sabres. I do have to put an asterisk on Buffalo really quickly because they were without their captain, Rasmus Dahlin, for a little bit there. For personal reasons, he was away from the team, but he is back and they've actually been more competitive since. So maybe they would move up the power rankings, but where we stand right now, they sit at 29, which, hey, I guess they're not last. So good for you, Buffalo. Normally I'd be putting you last. So take that small victory. At 28, another one I got wrong is the Vancouver Canucks, and they just are injured and as mid can get. At 27, I have the New York Rangers because I don't trust them, and I think I don't know what they are, but they can't win at home, apparently. They have all this talent. They were in the playoffs not too long ago, a couple of years with all these great players, and then they fell off the map, and I've seen no reason to put them back on the map. So I know some disagree. I know they're ahead of some teams, so this one might be one of my more bold takes. But if you ask me which teams I trust and think are actually good, the Rangers just ain't it. At number 26, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think they're also dealing with some injuries and adjustments, and not having Marner really has shown.
It's bad for the Leafs because they just got another injury. Now Matthews is out. Matthew Nyes is not playing here. He got scratched because he's injured. I mean, literally, Toronto's becoming an AHL team. And I'm going to totally steal this from THG. So thank you, Mr. Hockey Guy. I liked what he said, where he said they're getting a replacement for Marner's production from Matthew Nyes, and he's stepping up, and he's like, that's great. But then somebody needs to step up for Matthew Nyes' previous production because he can't do both. And it's true. And unfortunately, I kind of misjudged how this would go. I thought it would lead similar to what happened with the Avs. They have a more balanced team now without Rantanen. But what I also said before was they did get a replacement for Rantanen in the form of Martin Necas. So they didn't need a player internally to step up like Toronto did with Nyes, because they got the guy to replace Mikko Rantanen. So Toronto just doesn't have that. And I think their goals per game, it's rough. It's they're actually up there. They're 3.5 goals per game. So, I mean, they are scoring. I do think the problem is how many they're letting in. Yes, they let in the second most at 3.7 goals per game, but that would be because their entire defensive core is in the hospital right now.
Yeah, and I mean, after the strong tandem last year with both goalies, one of them was bound to make a regression this year. It just
Who are
law
also
of averages,
injured.
right? Yep. So, it's just ugly. There's an argument for Toronto to actually be even lower. And when we get to our next one of these power rankings, perhaps they will be. But for now, I have them sitting at 26, and that's where I end this tier of just bad. I don't really see much hope in sight. They're not like on the low end of this mess in the mushy middle. They are a tier below, I think, and that's where the cutoff is. So at the bottom of the mushy middle, I'm putting the Edmonton Oilers there, Corey, at number 25. And to be fair, until like an hour ago, actually more like until 15 minutes ago, I had them at 24 and the Washington Capitals at 25. But guess what happened? The Capitals won 7-4. It should have been a bigger blowout. Edmonton did push back, but man, they just keep letting in goals. We knew it would happen. They're not that good for some reason. There's no clear reason why they've regressed in other areas of the ice when they have a similar roster. Maybe they're just tired. I don't know, Corey. Do we need to pause here so you can offer some thoughts?
No, you know me. I like it when Edmonton suffers. Suffer. But I mean, I don't know. I kind of try and catch as much Edmonton hockey as I can because I like to watch the teams that I don't like as well. I don't know. I just think at this point they've kind of slowly lost depth as the seasons have gone on, and they actually haven't replaced it at the same rate that they've lost it. And I think also this is not a revolutionary take, so I'm not going to act like it is. Their goaltending is not that good, even because here's the thing, and I can tell you this from an Avalanche perspective because I watched it happen. Even if your decor is good, and I'm not going to say anything about the Edmonton decor, even if your decor is good, when you don't trust your goaltender, and I know they don't trust their goaltender, you play more to protect the net because you're afraid that everything's going to get past them. Exactly what the Avs had to do in front of Georgiev and Onanen. They were afraid that they weren't going to be able to get the saves that they needed. And so that limits your offensive ability. And then if you end up having a breakdown in that net protection, then it just goes in because your goaltending isn't that good. And I do also think that they have had some defensive struggles regardless. So I just think there are, and I'm not going to act like I know everything, but I just think there's a combination of things that right now are not going right for the Edmonton Oilers here. And I mean, you kind of see it with the Panthers too, who are super injured. Nope. Let me run that back. You're seeing the Panthers struggle, but for a different reason than I think the Oilers are struggling. But it's interesting that both teams who have made the finals in back-to-back years are really kind of struggling right now.
Yeah, and I think it could be fatigue. Obviously, we'll get to the Panthers here in a minute, but the injuries certainly have a bigger impact on them, and they have a couple games in hand. So that's why they're just slightly further up the board here. But if I just keep moving, so yeah, I said Washington Capitals at 24. I expected them to regress. I actually predicted them to regress more than you did, Corey. You might have said I had a bit of a bold take with how far I expected Washington to drop, but
yeah, my bad.
As it turns out, they've actually dropped even further because teams behind them, specifically from the state of Pennsylvania, have jumped past them. And that I don't think anyone expected. But that's at 24. I think it'll come in waves. I don't know what's wrong with the Capitals. I had a gut feeling is what it came down to, that this season, after all of the energy and the excitement of last year and the record goal chase for Ovi, there was going to be a hangover. And that's kind of what I think this is. And I think, unfortunately, I stand on it that I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. So that's why I have them here near the bottom.
Honestly, first of all, you're right. What's crazier to me is that there is a risk that the Leafs and the Oilers don't make the playoffs, but then they're getting replaced by possibly the Senators and the Canadiens to make the playoffs instead. Not that the Canadiens didn't make it last year, but I mean, there's just been some regular Canadian mainstays in the playoffs that just might not make it this year, which would be okay with me. We need some mix-ups.
We do need some mix-ups, and that's what this year is going to be good for in the playoffs, I think. It's going to be exciting and get a bunch of new matchups. But what are there? There's like 8 Canadian teams in the NHL? 7? 8?
7.
Yeah. I have 4 of them in the bottom 8 of my power rankings.
Oof.
It's sorry, Canada. Don't worry, you'll win the gold medal. It'll be fun. Please put Celebrini on the roster. More on that later. But at 23, I was still high on this team, and they are right there in the middle of it, but they just don't look as good as other teams. It's the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't know what to describe what's wrong with them. They are underwhelming. They're just, I don't think there's anything wrong with them.
I don't think there's anything wrong. They're just kind of is.
Yeah, they're tied on points for a playoff spot, but compared to the teams ahead of them in Ottawa and Tampa Bay who have a game in hand, it just I don't know. There's just nothing inspiring. Like last year I felt inspired. I really believed they would make a playoff push, and I still think they can, but right now compared to other teams in the East and specifically in the I guess in the Metro, they're dropped further back. There were teams I thought they would be ahead of that they just aren't. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, Columbus at 23. I put the Minnesota Wild at 22, which all things considered, they have been playing better recently. Arguably better than the Sharks in the month of November. However, the Sharks have beat them twice this year. So guess who's at number 21 in the power rankings, y'all? It's the San Jose Sharks. And yes, I'm a homer. This team is not in the bottom 10. They're close, but they're not there in the bottom 10. But they beat the Wild twice. So I can't put them behind the Wild when I think they're in a similar spot, have had very similar Novembers for the recency bias. So really hard to pick there. And I actually put Florida at number 20 because even though the Sharks beat Florida, Florida looked wholeheartedly like the better team in that game. And it was just incredible goaltending from the Sharks. And with all the injuries Florida's dealing with, I do think they are just legitimately a better hockey club. So that is why I have Florida, then San Jose, then Minnesota as 20 through 22. But this is where we're starting to get into the messy area where everyone has between 20 and 22 points on the year. So however you want it, reorganize these how you'd like at home, but this is how I'm organizing them.
I mean, it's just tough because I mean, like, I see what you're saying with like the Sharks and Wild, but the Wild have been on like a heater lately, and they haven't allowed a 5-on-5 goal in like 5 games, which is fucking crazy. I don't know how they did that. They also got back-to-back shutouts from I think Jesper Wallstedt. So I mean, they're cooking right now. The problem is the task that's ahead of them in the Central Division. That's like the worst division in the world to be in right now. So I'm interested if they can keep that streak going because I saw them get scored on and I was like, oh, wow. And then it was like, they still haven't allowed a 5-on-5 goal. Those were all power play goals. So evidently Minnesota's penalty kill is kind of ass, but regardless, they are kind of pushing their way back in there. So I'll be interested to see what happens. And I mean, the Sharks did lose to the Flames. I don't know, but
yes, the Sharks lost to the Flames. But again, these teams have both played 20 games, and the difference is Minnesota has one more loss in overtime than the Sharks do. But they have the same number of wins, the same number of total losses, and the Sharks have 2 head-to-head victories over the Wild.
All right. Fair enough.
I stand on business that they're close enough that the Sharks can be ranked one spot ahead, and I'm not just being a homer on that one.
All right. Carry on.
Florida at 20, in case you wanted to continue the discussion with the Edmonton part, because I do think it's more injuries than anything, and they would be higher up the board with more points on the year if they weren't injured.
I'm sure once a
lot of injuries,
Kachuk and Barkov come back. The problem is they just keep getting more injuries. It's kind of insane. That was a nasty shorty. I'm watching the Minnesota game in the background while we're chatting here. But yeah, it sucks because every time I open up Instagram or any hockey app, I just see another Florida player. I think it was Eetu Luosterainen the other day. So I mean, they just kind of also keep stacking up the injuries. But you know what? Okay, not that I wish injuries on any team, but I am happy. Knock on wood. If you're listening, knock on wood. I am happy that for once, not the Avalanche don't have them because Valerian Nichushkin's out right now. Logan O'Connor, we've been waiting for comeback. You all keep your Rontas out, but I'm happy that the Avalanche for once are not the ones with every injury in the world. Thank you. So it's nice to see it happening. Not that it's nice to see it. It's nice to not have it be happening to you for once because man, oh man, the Avalanche have rode the injury bug the last few seasons. So that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, certainly understandable too. At 19, I have the Seattle Kraken.
Boo! I hate seeing them this high. This is still too high. Fuck off!
And well, they technically hold the playoff spot.
Hate it.
That's right now. They're in a wild card spot, but it's just goaltending. I can't believe I'm saying a team
Yeah,
with
that does
Matt
seem weird.
Murray and Philip Grubauer is where they are because they have the 6th fewest goals against. And sure, I left off Joey Decord, who's the one having the incredible season, who's their full-time starter, and their backup's just getting mixed up here and there. But this team is not that good. They're
No.
getting wins. When we talk about it later, Corey, or maybe who talks about it later, I don't know, but I think the Sharks kind of looked like the better team in their most recent game, even if the scoreboard didn't necessarily show it. The Sharks absolutely dominated them last time. So I don't know. It was hard to pick where to put the Kraken here because I did think I wanted to put them ahead of Florida, and I wanted to put Florida ahead of San Jose, and I wanted to put San Jose ahead of the Wild, but I wanted to put the Wild ahead of the Kraken. So I was just like, well, what the fuck do I do here? Someone has to go on top. And so I gave the tiebreaker to the team with the most points. But the Kraken, I think over the course of a season, they will drop the goaltending. You can't just count on goaltending to rescue everything. And that's a bit of the Sharks' problem too. So we'll see. Although Askarov, I trust the pedigree more and just the top end talent we were always promised more than whatever Seattle can field. So
Watching
or
Seattle
ice.
was like the most mid experience of my life. That's all I want to say.
Exactly. So that's why they're here at 19. At 18 is the Ottawa coin flips. I'm sticking with that moniker for them because I mean, shit, they have only 6 wins in regulation. They go to overtime a lot. Like they have more games played in overtime than they have wins in regulation. So
They said we're the
I
OT
don't know.
loss merchants.
Yeah, I mean, technically the Avs have more OT losses by 1. Vegas has more OT losses than anyone, I think, at 6. So we'll get to them as the real OT loss merchants. Oh, and not too far here because, and again, the Eastern wildcard race, you have 4 teams now that are tied at 22 points. 5 teams now tied at 22 points. 2 teams at 21, and Toronto's at 20. So again, with these Eastern teams in here, it's a crapshoot. But I got Ottawa at 18. I got Tampa Bay at 17 just because I trust Tampa Bay more over the course of the season. And if you need an extra tiebreaker than that, Vasi. At 16, the Vegas Golden Knights do not look like the same Vegas Golden Knights.
No.
And this makes me as a Sharks fan happy. I prey upon their downfall. But yeah, it's surprising because like I said, they have 6 losses in overtime. As well, 10 losses total on the season. They're still above NHL 900 with 24 points in 19 games, but it doesn't look like the competitive, dangerous Vegas Golden Knights of before. Now, I don't want to drop them too far either because I know in the games that matter most against better opponents, they seem to play better. They're just that quintessential team playing to the level of their opponent. So what better team to put at number 16 in the power rankings?
Yeah, I don't have more to say about that, but you're right. It's just, I don't know. They'll probably come back around, just like how Dallas started the year fucking ass. I'm not convinced that Vegas is wholly out of it. I just think it's an injury issue here, and I think once people are healthy, if they get healthy, they'll be fine.
Yeah, and I agree. I do think it's an injury issue, and I do think come playoffs, there's just going to be a problem because they're really good as a playoff team. They're very well built for it, and it's frustrating. But for now,
hold on. Let me
say
something else. I know that sounds like an excuse, everybody, because I've said that for like a lot of these teams here that are like sucking dick right now. But I mean, when you're missing NHL caliber players and you're replacing them with lesser caliber players, no offense to anybody in the AHL, but I mean, your team is not going to do as well no matter what, especially if it's like your top players, i.e. Mark Stone. He's that team's captain. Fucking Quinn Hughes keeps missing time for Vancouver. Fucking there's people on every single one of these teams that we mentioned with injury troubles that they're missing these top players. I mean, Again, one player does not a team make, but I mean, those guys are difference makers. They are point producers. They make an impact on the ice. That's why they get paid what they get paid. So I'm trying to say that it's not meant to just be like a cop out, like, oh yeah, they're bad because they have injury troubles. Like it is a genuine reason.
Yeah, and that is true. I agree. It's a genuine reason. Also, I'm totally pulling a move on the fly here. So I am updating these to shift
Oh,
a team down because I realized what I want to say for the next three teams. I actually want to wait a second. So I'm moving the Los Angeles Kings in at number 15. They're technically tied on points with Vegas and one more game played, but they also have one more win. So take with that what you will. It's the Kings. They're a little bit hard to figure out sometimes. They either look really good or really bad, and they have the same problem playing at home that the Rangers do. The difference is they don't play in Madison Square Garden. So I'm rethinking why I had the Kings as high as 12 when we started. So I'm moving them down to 15 because 12 through 14, I'm getting a little crazy here. I'm just playing with the vibes of it all. Because at 14, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. At the 13 spot, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. And at 12, I have the Islanders. Let that sink in. Because
I'm keeping my door locked if
on
a
all these
sink is
teams.
knocking on it.
Nice dad joke there. But seriously, it's the young players. These teams are fun to watch. When I see the highlights, when I see the recaps, when I just turn on Hulu or ESPN Plus, wherever I stream, that's where I stream my hockey games from, right? When I just turn it on and see what game's on any given afternoon, evening, those games are fun to watch. And those teams are kind of good right now. Like Philadelphia, sure, they would be at 21 points in that tight Eastern playoff race, but they also have games in hand on literally everybody in the East. And they're a lot more fun to watch. Chicago holds the first wild card spot in the West. They have 24 points in 19 games. Look legit. Spencer Knight is the real deal. I liked watching this kid as a prospect in World Juniors. He had that time off with the Florida Panthers, but he has found himself and is playing incredibly for Chicago, which is unlocking their offense to go play loose. You talk about Edmonton and their problem where everybody is just has a stick up their ass. It's like because they're so stressed and they can't trust their goaltender. It's the exact opposite situation in Chicago. And then New York has been a big surprise to me. I don't know if I even believe that I have them here at 12. And I think of these three teams, I think one, maybe two of them will actually be legitimate playoff contenders at the end. But right now, they're all playing really exciting hockey. And don't look now, but the Islanders have actually stepped forward ahead of the rest of the Eastern playoff race. Sure, they're only 2 points ahead, but they have differentiated themselves and put their head and shoulders, not quite shoulders, but just get their eye line peaking above the rest of the teams nearby them in the tight East. So, I gotta respect it. Matthew Schaefer looks like the real deal. He looks good. The team's playing better than anyone could have ever expected. So, Corey, this is where I get a little crazy and I feel like I'm being too high on these teams. So tell me, which one am I wrong about those three? The Islanders, Blackhawks, and Flyers.
Probably the Flyers. I'll talk about New York more plenty because they're one of the two teams we played this week. So I'll reserve any comments about them because obviously we want to keep them moving here. The Flyers have been doing better, but I don't imagine they hold on to a playoff spot. I would be genuinely really surprised because this kind of happened last year as well, where they started out this way. They were flirting with the playoff line. They had those wins, but then as separation starts to go, they're the ones who kind of fall back down. So, I don't think it's inappropriate for where they are right now in these power rankings, but I do think they'll eventually kind of fall back down. But I mean, the progression of their youth is promising. Trevor Zegras is finally having the season that people want him to. I'm happy for the guy also. So, yeah, I do still think they need to get a better goaltending situation. I mean, Vladar has been better for them, but I don't think it's a permanent solution. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think Vladar is a good 1B. He's a good backup but I don't think he is a legitimate starter, is my personal take. So, that again, there might be some room for debate here on numbers 8 through 11. So perhaps I'm too low on them and their recent win streak, but I have the Boston Bruins at 11. I have no idea where this resurgence came from, but I know their roster is old compared to the average age in the league. And I just don't know if I buy it over a course of the season. They've kind of dodged the injury bug compared to others, in my opinion. So I think their surge very recently has been surprising and incredible. But I was also trying to consider whole body of work over the season, talent, joy I have watching the games. I don't know how legitimately confident I feel about Boston, but they are the number 2 team in the Atlantic right now. So I was struggled with them. I have them at 11. I'm gonna get through up to number 8, Corey, and then pause so you can interject any thoughts. At 10, I have the Utah Mammoth. I'm still really high on them, and even though they sit just outside the wild card in the West right now, I think they're good. I think Clayton Keller has been looking great out there. I think they're a very, very dangerous team, and they're getting solid. It's not consistently the best, but they are getting solid goaltending. And I think over the course of a season, they have the type of players and they are built the right way to be able to at least be in the playoff hunt. At number 9, I have Pittsburgh, and they did slide down compared to where I'd want them to be. Although they did just win their most recent game. So they're at 10 wins on the season, 24 points. I do think this team could potentially hold this together over the course of a season. It might sound crazy. I called them a wagon last time. I do think they're going to make the playoffs, even if they have their ups and downs like everyone else. And at number 8, I so wanted to have them in the top 5, but I had to drop them because of their 4-game losing streak they're currently on, is the Montreal Canadiens. And I really think Montreal is the best team potentially in the Atlantic, because I just don't know if I trust Detroit and Boston over the course of a whole season. But right now, I can't put Montreal as the number 1 Atlantic team, so they have to settle for the 8th rank in the NHL.
I think Utah needs to be a little lower. That's my only commentary for this bit.
So let's say Utah drops below Boston. Would you drop them below the Islanders?
I'm
as
not
well,
saying you need to like
actively.
I don't think you need to actively make the movement. I'm just saying in my opinion, I think with how they've been playing as of recently, they need to drop a little lower, but still within like the top 16. But like, I don't know who I'd want to move at this point. So I'd say keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's fair. I was genuinely interested to see if you had an idea.
No, I do not.
Okay, because I would be interested to know, because I was like, I could see an argument to drop them behind the Islanders for sure. Maybe, I mean, they technically are behind Chicago on points, so I don't know. I think Chicago is electric and exciting. I think Utah is better. If you asked me to pick one head to head in a game who I thought would win, I'd probably pick Utah. So, at number 7, I have the New Jersey Devils. I'm concerned that this might be too high ultimately. They're at 7 right now, but Jack Hughes is injured. So cliff incoming, Devils fans. I don't know how long this injury is going to be, but my condolences for your franchise.
Dude, that was
at number 6.
Hold on, no, we need to pause real quick. When I read that, I thought it was Jofa King or Binner memes or NHL humor or something. I thought there's no way that I'm reading this and this is real, but it was. And he's now out 8 weeks, 2 months, because he cut his hand. He was leaning on a glass. Bro, why? Why were you leaning on a glass, Jack? What are you doing? He was trying to be all nonchalant and cool. He was like, hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Jack. I hope he's okay, though. I'm sure he cut something in his hand, because if it was just a normal cut, it would not be 8 weeks, and he needed surgery, so he probably sliced a tendon.
Which is not ideal
no.
For a shooter. And, man, This is the like New Jersey. Again,
They
I
just
don't know.
can't.
Maybe it's just
Ugh.
because their mascot is the devil. They're cursed. That's the best
It
I can come
has
up
to
with.
be.
But yeah. So again, my condolences to your franchise, New Jersey. I won't chalk it up to a lost season yet. Congratulations for still being in the top 10 at this far in the season. We'll see. You lost all your people late in the year last year, and that's why you made the playoffs. But put the Devils on watch, because with the Islanders playing much better than expected and the East being wide open, they are by no means safe. At number 6, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Number 5, and I have to say, to be fair, the Winnipeg Jets are probably a top 5 team. However, I did endeavor to have at least one team from each division in the top 5. So at number 5, I have the Detroit Red Wings. And the Red Wings, they 12 wins on the year, 25 points, lead the Atlantic. It's shocking to me. The Iser plan is suddenly working. I don't know if I fully buy it over the course of a season, because Detroit has done this before and it's all fallen apart. But right now they are playing like a top 6 team in the league. Again, if you ask me honestly, I think Winnipeg's a better team, and I'd probably put Winnipeg at the number 5. I just really wanted to have one team from each division in the top 5.
That's fair. Carry on.
At number 4, I have the Anaheim Ducks. I think they're real. I think they're legitimately the best team in the Pacific. I think they are the biggest threat to the Colorado Avalanche in the West this year. Just my take. At number 3, the Dallas Stars, probably the actual biggest threat to the Avalanche every year, of course. At number 2, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't just hype up the Hurricanes because I like to hype up the Hurricanes, guys. This team is really good in the regular season. They are like a lock to make the Eastern Conference Final. No matter what else happens in the East, the Carolines will be in the conference final and lose in 5. So for now, they can be number 2 on the power rankings.
There are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Carolina making the Eastern Conference Finals.
And the 4th certainty is them losing in 5.
Correct.
In that final. And then, of course, number 1 team in the NHL, drum roll, please. It is, of course, the Colorado Avalanche. And that is not homerism. That is not because we are an Avalanche fan cast. That is because this team is statistically unmatched. One regulation loss in 19 games, 31 points. It's incredible. They're on a 6-game win streak. They have not lost in regulation at home. They are 6-1-3 on the road. Like, oh my God, this team is so good right now. It's real. It's exciting. We got to watch it, Corey. They are fun to watch. Even in their down nights, they are still better than teams with playoff pedigree. So it wheels up, guys. Like, let's go. Let's go. Just keep hunting those points, because I mean the Stars are trying to sniff back and get right on your heels, but if the Avs keep winning, it's not gonna matter.
Dude, it pisses me off so much, because if you recall, everybody, a few episodes ago, we revisited our preseason divisional rankings and looked at where teams were. And it was so funny because I saw online that there were Dallas fans freaking out. They're like, our season is over. We're off to a horrid start. You know, we're in the bottom of the Central. And even though I was like, they're ass right now, but it's not going to stay that way. What a shock. All of a sudden they went on a tear and they're back at number 2. And it pisses me off, but, you know, I knew that's what was going to happen. Fuck these guys, but it doesn't matter, I guess. We'll just keep fucking winning as long as it takes to hold on to that first spot, because get the fuck out of here. But man, does it feel good. Is this what it feels like to have a fucking healthy team, to have a deep team, to have a team with good goaltending, literally the best offense and the best defense? I'm not going to spoil it too much because I have stuff to say here in a second. God, it feels so good right now. So everybody just keep enjoying it while it's here. But yeah, thank you, Dom. Thank you for taking the time to rank all 32 teams, because man, oh man, that's not fucking easy.
It was a fun challenge, though. I am looking forward to the next time that we will hopefully have a little bit more of a spread in the league,
Yeah.
make it a tiny bit easier, and then we can have some more spirited debates about the few teams in the middle where there is more to question. But for now, I please tell us in the comments how horribly awful I did and how I have disrespected your team's franchise by ranking them too high, or excuse me, too low, or how I have false hope in your franchise by ranking them too high. But other than that, Corey, I'm going to drink my water, take a short break on my voice, and pass it back to you to hear about some Avs games.
Yes, everybody, exactly as he said. Please let us know what you think is right, what you think is wrong. If anything, the Avs being number one is right, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Anyway, Avalanche games from a fan perspective. Just some quick notes about the Avalanche that I just alluded to. I know the power play is still ick, blob. The Avalanche have a plus 31 goal differential as of today. The next closest team is the Carolina Hurricanes at plus 16. The Avs are almost double that. St. Louis is a minus 22, in case you were wondering. The Kings, who lead the Pacific, have a minus 1. Weird. The Avalanche are also now first in both goals for per game at 4.11, compared to Carolina in second at 3.67. And also first in goals against per game, as in least goals allowed, in 2.37 per game. At 5-on-5, both offensively and defensively, the Colorado Avalanche are absolutely dominant. Beyond dominant. Enjoy it. Also, quick fun fact, the Avalanche have scored 5 times in the first minute of the game, and 4 of them have been by Martin Necas, so don't give the man the puck in the first minute of the game if you are the other team. Also, new fun fact that I learned today, the top 4 scorers in the NHL are all first-round picks: McKinnon, McDavid, Celebrini, and Bedard. So just interesting little tidbit there. That's never happened, by the way, in NHL history. So, weird. Buffalo!
Oh, wow.
That was funny because it sounded like you said it. Oh, wow, to Buffalo. Buffalo ended up with the 1,000-yard stare as they came into this game having lost 8 of their last 9. The Avs got off to a hot start as usual and scored a quick 2 goals, including one of the aforementioned first-minute goals by Martin Necas. Lehkonen added to the lead shortly after, keeping himself hot. Then, suddenly, Bo Byram, former Av and Stanley Cup champion, scores and cuts the lead in half. And just like that, Buffalo decided that they wanted to try very, very hard. Big Cock Brock, though, whipped out his big cock and tucked in his 4th of the season to give the Avs a 3-1 lead. It almost seemed like the Avs were taking back the momentum, but Buffalo had a lot more energy than when they first started. And then all of a sudden, they're skating hard, they're working hard, having a want and desire to suddenly win the game. It's almost like Bo Byram's goal, which Mackenzie Blackwood just seemed to kind of lose track of in his hands, awoke the team like Russian sleeper agents and activated their ability to play really good hockey, which the Buffalo Sabres can do. They just can't win. Buffalo then starts to even up the shots, and suddenly an absolute nothing burger knuckle puck gets through, and it's now 2-3. I'd also like to say that when I originally wrote that, when I was taking notes during the game, it was a lot less nice than how I just presented it. There was a lot more obscenities, which we're very familiar with on this show, but it didn't sound as good when every second word was a curse word. So I'm a little more calm about it now, and because we won, but man, oh man, I was not happy. Blackwood.
Authentic, at least.
It always is. Blackwood, to me, is needing to still get back up to speed. And I mean, he hasn't played a lot. Still hasn't gotten, I think, the amount of practice that Jared Bednar wanted. I mean, let me tell you, everybody, when you miss training camp, that's a big deal. And we saw it last year with players like Jeremy Swayman. He had a pretty awful year after missing training camp. And this year, he's having a much better year after getting training camp. But you know, I'm confident in Mackenzie Blackwood's ability to bounce back, and if for whatever reason this is just a rougher year for him, no big deal. Scott Wedgewood. But moving right along here, Blackwood is needing to get some of the things are getting through in this game were stupid, and that's what I said in the heat of the moment. The Avs were having trouble back-checking just out of nowhere, and Buffalo increased their aggressiveness as if they had a video game rage meter. Shout out God of War, if you know what I'm talking about. And they were putting 2 players on pucks and creating zone entries and extended cycle. The only Avs player who seemed to be able to actually get around the Sabres for a time was Nathan MacKinnon. Everyone else was just getting swallowed by the Buffaloes, who are all fucking 6'4", 250 pounds. Finally, Gabe Landeskog has to be cursed. He had a 3rd goal called back. I can't find the replay, but it was off of a borderline goaltender interference call, which feels like it was 50-50. And honestly, if it was anyone but Landy, the goal would have counted. No one knows what goalie interference is, and 2 of Landeskog's goals should have absolutely counted, this one included. And really all of them that have been called back have been a debatable situation. I just want to complain. It's truly unbelievable. I just threw my pen on the ground. Hold on, everybody.
Complaint corner.
Yeah,
unofficially.
Yeah, pretty much. Whoever is in charge of the graphics of the scoring bug during this game specifically, dropped the ball. The scoring bug in the second period kept disappearing. I couldn't keep track of how much time was left in any PKs. The score was being shown incorrectly. It was the incorrect period. There was just all kinds of errors, and it kept happening. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But my goodness, it was not a good look. Moving right along, though. The Avalanche had a few excellent-looking power play chances in the second when they finally got some, and they almost scored, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Buffalo, however, began to tilt the ice in their favor and followed up on their cycles as the Avs had immense difficulty in exiting their own zone. More than normal, it felt. As I watched the play, I was praying for the Avs to get a break or score an extra goal or 2 off the rush or anything, because it felt like they needed some extra insurance, because being ahead 3-2 was just not enough. The Sabres were challenging every puck, and it didn't feel like the Avs had the attitude required to win this game, at least in this moment. And this is going to sound so stupid, but I was pissed at how hard Buffalo was trying. It didn't compute, because if Buffalo committed to playing the way that they were playing every game, they'd sure as hell win a lot more often. And why they started this game without a care in the world and suddenly realized that they should play like they're competing for the Stanley Cup made no sense to me. But my earlier intuition was correct, because off the power play, Tage Thompson, who's 20 feet tall, absolutely blows a hole in the stadium with a blast and evens the score. Thankfully, though, Gavin Brindley exists and continues to deliver while being elevated on the second line. Fun fact, Val was out practicing on the ice in shoes, so he's progressing well. However, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, one of the best names in hockey, was putting together a legacy performance in net for Buffalo and was absolutely keeping the Sabres in the game from that point on. He was arguably their best player on the night. I got to write something down, Dom, so you have a moment for interjection. Actually, pause.
So many fun things in there.
Give me like 2 seconds. This next part is really short. The Sabres were simply unrelenting, putting body to body. They continue to do everything that I've mentioned up to this point, and were not slowing down. And yet, the Mac and Netchus connection persists, and they got the boys a super wonky goal to increase their lead. Now, Dom, do you remember earlier when Landy had a goal taken away? About 2 minutes ago when I said that? Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Well, when the Sabres' net was empty, the Avs were finally able to squeeze it up the ice. Specifically, Landy was able to fight it up the ice, but he just couldn't bury it. Martin Necas, though, he got it behind the Buffalo net, and he could have shot it in for a hat trick, but instead, he passed it to his captain, our captain, for a goal. Quote, "I'm always going to pass it to my captain when I see him open." Bless you, Marty, who had a 4-point game himself. Also, every Avs defenseman got an assist in this game.
Well, so that last one's a super cool stat. We love to see the defense getting involved and on the scoreboard as well, getting credit for their contributions. But how about that class from Mr. Marty
Love him.
Natchez there? I mean, you already have all the points on the night, and Landy was robbed twice in a sense because he couldn't get the empty netter in on the first attempt. So you hold up and you give away the potential for a hat trick and a personal stat to get one back to the captain, who certainly fought back and earned it. So super classy move. If for whatever reason Landy was not, it didn't work out with the pass and it go in, we would be berating Martin Natchez for not just taking the easy point to ice the game. But the good thing happened. It's all well that ends well, and it makes for a great storyline. So super, super awesome. I've said it before, say it again. I think he is just better. I think the Avs are just better with him on the team. And statistically, I'm not wrong. So I'm going to keep saying it.
Sure, fair enough.
Avalanche, the Streak Destroyer! Oh, yeah!
The Islanders are not typically known for fast-paced, high-octane, high-event style hockey. They are known for a stiff, defensive structure, being old and slow, and playing about some of the most boring hockey you can ever put yourself through watching. So color me surprised when they came into their game against your Colorado Avalanche on a 4-game win streak. Color me more surprised when the Islanders came in and played a fast-paced possession game heavily injected with youth. The Islanders played the entire game against the Avs incredibly well, except for about a half-minute span. But I think that speaks to the Avs' ability and experience where in these close games, they know how to still close it out and win. But boy, was it not easy to get there. I know the final score said 4-1, but 2 of those goals came in the closing minutes of the game, and one of them was an empty netter. Also, Dom, I appreciate you fixing my typing mistakes. It's a little too late because I've already read them, but thank you. Earlier, we talked about Scott Wedgewood being a difference maker, and boy, was he one in this game. The only one that got past him was an odd deflection off of Emil Heinemann, or off of Emil Heinemann's foot. And unfortunately, I actually agree that it was a deflection and not a kick. It was a debate the entire night. I felt it was a deflection. But the real highlights of this game were Wedgwood's saves rather than the goals. What's comedic is the save that they posted over the highlights channel, or all over the highlights channel, was, in my opinion, not even Scott Wedgwood's best save that game. Although he had many highlight reel-worthy saves and was the definitive reason that the Avalanche won that game. When people discuss goalies stealing wins, this was it. The Avalanche in the first especially overpassed and had difficulty generating offense. Then, as the game went on, the Isles continued to crank up the physicality, and the Avs responded in kind. However, the Isles didn't ease back and begin to ride a very thin line with some questionable plays. That culminated in Josh Manson squaring off with Anders Lee, who my mom thinks name sounds like a Civil War general. And Josh Manson one-punched Lee and hit the off button, and down he went. But all this is to say, the Islanders are a strong physical team. At least that's what they're showing right now. They forced their way through Avs defenders like few others can, and the Islanders swarmed when the Avs had the puck and were great at forcing turnovers. Force pucks off sticks. Force is the word. They've also strung together they also had strung together back-to-back shifts in the Avs zone. I realize I don't elaborate on what that means very much. And Dom, you can also jump in here if I forget anything, but when I say a team has generated shifts in another team's zone, that basically just means that they have their group of players, getting shots on net, cycling the puck offensively in the zone, and then they're able to get their line off and then a new line on, and that line continues that offensive shift in their O zone. Would you say that kind of... Yeah.
Yeah. When we think of shifts, it's
more like you're stringing
line,
together
right?
shifts. Yeah.
Yeah. So each line shift is when they're on the ice, right? From the time they hop over the boards to when they go back onto the bench. And so if your team can maintain possession, or especially offensive zone possession, then they're stringing together shifts, or it in one sense becomes one large team oriented shift rather than what the individual player shifts are.
Yeah. So they were generating the Isles offense all while making sure the Avalanche couldn't get anything going themselves. It was, and the Islanders had a great layer defense that was stifling the Avalanche's traditional forechecking strategy. Also, we spoke on questionable plays by the Isles. Well, the refs who officiated the Broncos-Chiefs game also officiated this game tonight. So if you're a fan of both hockey and football, you'll get a kick out of that one. That is to say that they were truly awful. I try not to complain too much, but it was noticeably bad the entire game, and there did seem to be a bit of bias towards the Isles. But two specific examples in this game where Martin Necas was obviously tripped while a ref is standing there. You could see the Isles stick go into Marty's skates in the replay. Marty falls into the ref, and it goes uncalled.
Hey, yo, what the
Then later, Parker Kelly is called on interference on Romanov when Kelly and another Av were moving up the ice with the puck. Kelly had passed the puck off his stick, and then Romanov impeded and prevented Kelly from continuing up the ice with the puck off his stick. Textbook interference. But it was called on Kelly. What? However, the Avs have been on the wrong side of the Avs have been on the wrong side of this, but tonight it was on the right side on the right side as in a game. Wow, what am I trying to say? They're on the right side of the fact that a game of hockey can turn around in as little as a minute. And unfortunately, the Sharks were on the wrong side of it, as we'll talk about later. In this case, it was a minute 19. The Avs were trailing into the second, but a quick play where Ross Colton was finally able to get behind the Isles D and snipe one past Sorokin, who had a great game himself. Then Malinsky just gets one onto the net, and Olofsson tips it in. Once the Avs actually got the puck towards the net, good things happened. Amazing what happens when you shoot at the net rather than pass it around it, said the fan who has never played hockey. But I digress. While the Avs did generate other minimal offensive chances, it felt as though the Isles generated way more, despite only having 2 more shots on the score sheet. This 2-1 stalemate persisted, and just like against Buffalo, it felt like the Avalanche needed to score another goal or two for insurance, but they just couldn't manage it due to the Isles' quality of play, physical play, and constant referee stoppages and penalties. Then, with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left, Marty Necas absolutely lofted one over the glass. Oh, God. It was an absolute gaffe, and it could have sent the game to OT because of how bad the Isles have been pressing. And that OT is where the Isles have been living and succeeding leading up to this game with the Avs. But the Avalanche PK, even with 6-on-4, responded in a big way, and Marty came out of the box and got an empty netter to make up for it. Then, suddenly, after the empty netter, Burns puts one on the net that's tipped in by Nelson to get him a goal against his former club, leaving him with 2 points in the game and 2 goals in his last 2 games. Excellent. And that's all I got.
Well, it certainly was excellent. And, Burnsy putting them on the net, setting
Love
people
him.
up once again. But yeah, I mean, that's we were talking about earlier in the power rankings is this Islanders team is much different this season than what we expected. And sure, there are some games where it's a bit down, but Sorokin's really been playing super well, been a good backstop for them. Not his best play we've ever seen from Sorokin, but he's still a really good goaltender, especially on his best nights. And now they do have some sense of electric offense and can pressure, be suffocating as you described. So it's a different Isles team. We'll see if it carries through the whole season, but it's exciting for that franchise. But good thing for the Avs, they got the dub, and that's what matters. And even if it wasn't as big of a margin as the scoreboard suggests, they got the win, and they were able to pile on extras at the end.
Yeah, and that's really all that matters. And I mean, yeah, what's been so interesting is I'm watching some other teams like. This Carolina-Minnesota game has been really fun to watch, but man, you watch some other teams in like more of the mushy middle of like your power rankings, and I'm like, wow, I am very rarely bored watching hockey, but man, this is really boring to watch. So I'm very thankful that I get to watch the fastest team every time they're on TV. And I mean, again, that's not hyperbole. That's there is factual basis backing that one up. But Tom, you had a slightly busier week than I did, as in the Sharks played 3 games as opposed to the Avalanche's 2. But like me, you work for a living, and this podcast and hockey media isn't your full-time job yet. But that can make it hard to view every game, but that's okay, because there's still plenty to talk about the Sharks this week, despite it not having the same success as last week. It's time for In the Tank with me. That's right. I'm hijacking In the Tank this week. It's mine now because I stepped in and I watched and analyzed the Sharks. All right, calm down. I only stepped in for one game that Dom asked me to, and that's the Sharks in Seattle Part 2. Dom is going to rock you through Calgary and the Mammoths, so he'll start you off, and then I'll hijack the boys in teal analysis, and then Dom will steal it right back. So let's roll. It's time for In the Tank with Dom.
And I'm Captain Avalanche Dom, because I feel like stealing a title too.
No, not how that works. You got to watch an Avs game for me for that to happen.
Fair enough.
I never said I was Corey from the tank. I just said I'm stealing in the tank.
Well, fine. I was trying to be fun and play along, but I'll just have to watch one of your games for you.
No fun allowed here.
It is what it is. Anyways, I wish I could have traded and been able to watch the Seattle game and pawn off the Calgary one on you, because it was so bad, bro. Like, oh my God. I don't even want to talk it. So how about I just start with intermission stats after the first period?
Sure.
Shots, 13 Calgary, 1 for San Jose after 1 period. Face-offs, 82% Calgary.
Oh my God.
That means 18% for San Jose. At least the Calgary doing their power play. But the moral of the story, if we're going to talk about this Calgary game, and really it'll extend to the entire month of November, is Askarov. And the new segment I like to call All I Can Asky, because we're going back to the well, and Askarov has really been all I could have ever asked for when he first arrived in San Jose. And I said it last week. I'll say it again. Askarov in the month of November is unmatched. He faced 35 shots in this game, and he saved 34 of them, including some incredible robbery saves. He has officially a positive winning record. He's 6-5 on the season, has shot up to a .905 save percentage on the season and a .299 GAA. But in the month of November, Corey, he has faced 197 shots in 6 games. That's nearly 33 shots on goal faced per game. He has allowed 8 goals. And that includes the game against the Avalanche, the top in the league, best differential offense, all the things you just said, Avalanche. He allowed 2. So
well, we'll wait and see how November 26 goes, all right?
Yeah, we will. But he's made, just get the, I promise you the numbers. I wanted to do the numbers last week, and I didn't have all the numbers ready, and I misrepresented them. Exact numbers. 189 saves on 197 shots faced in the month of November. That is a .959 save percentage. That is insane. He has not had a save percentage below .924, I think is what it is exactly, in the entire month.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable for the kid. And I love to see that even in the Sharks losing efforts, that he's still putting in full effort and standing on his head, because that's what matters. Is you're not, again, I've been using this word a lot lately, but you're not getting apathetic when you're losing, because of course there's an expectation right now. It's like, you still know that you're going to lose. So the fact that he's still giving it everything he's got is really great. And I mean, after a rough start, to see him elevate to this level is really nice.
Absolutely. And this is what was the hope. This was the promise of his potential. And he's finally gotten comfortable into his role with the team and is really playing super well. I almost said incredibly there. For those of you who listened to the last episode, please comment how many times I said incredible in my segment, because when I listened back, it was too many to count, and I hate it. That's my complaint corner. I hated how much I said the word incredible. So we're just not going to say that word tonight because you. But he was the only good thing in this game against Calgary, because Jeff Skinner got injured very early. It looked pretty bad, of a lower body injury to his right leg. I'm not sure exactly where. He could not put any weight on that skate. Somehow he's still listed as day to day while Michael Misa's weak. So that just makes me more concerned about whatever is ailing Misa. If Skinner can be day to day with what looked like he was going to be out for a month. So we'll see if he's ultimately out for a month, but the mixed up lines, the Sharks just couldn't generate any offense. The 3 stars of the game for the Sharks would be Askarov, the left post, and the right post, because they were the only players on the team who did anything useful, because there were a couple shots that Calgary had that also rang off the posts. So they scored what would be enough to win the game in the second period. Shots after 2 periods, you'd hope it'd get better, but no, it stayed pretty bad. It was 27-6 in favor of Calgary. The faceoff percentage got a little better. It was now 62-38. But the Sharks actually had 2 power play opportunities where they just couldn't do anything. They had, I think, 6 shots at this point in the game, and I think 1 combined shot on the power play, whereas Calgary had 3 shots shorthanded, I think is what it was. I don't have that exact number in front of me, but if I recall correctly, the Sharks eventually turned it on in the third period of this game a little bit, started to push a little bit, but Calgary did get an empty netter with less than 5 seconds left in the game, so just, why not add a little stinger right at the end and make my night worse? But final score 2-0 Calgary, the worst team in the league, making the Sharks look like amateurs, outshooting them 36-16. Woof. Oh, 36-16. Well, then that means Askarov made 35 saves. No, actually, one of those was on the empty netter. I was just kidding. But point is, what I was meaning to say all of this is Askarov is really good, like really good. He was the only good thing about this game. So, Corey, do you have anything you want to say about this game against Calgary before I move on to talking about how really good Askarov was against Utah as well?
Nah, I'm not gonna continue I'm not gonna make you continue your suffering here, but no, Dom, you can't talk about how good he was against Utah yet, because that game happened last night, but there was another game that happened after Calgary, and that's the Sharks at the Kraken on November 15th. I got your notes right here, baby.
It's being hijacked, y'all. I've lost control of the submarine in this tank.
That's right. I'm driving the boat now. Well, I have a period-by-period breakdown for you, so let's roll. In period 1, and again, just so everybody knows, I'm talking about the Sharks here. I'm talking about the Sharks. The boys were buzzing early after a miserable outing against the Flames, in which they only managed 1 shot on goal the entire first period. That was what they said, not me. They changed that attitude quickly, as they had the Kraken attendee Matt Murray on his toes and the rest of the Kraken scrambling for defense. It was so scrambly that it seemed that Kurashev got an early goal, similar to the last contest the Teal Boys had against Seattle, but it was a double doink. But the Sharks were seeing each other well, connecting passes, easily getting in the Kraken zone, and did I say that twice? No. And getting pucks to and around the net. The offense for the Sharks was humming, but so was the defense, being very active and aggressive on pucks. What's tough is, despite an overall solid effort and even better defensive play, the Sharks surrendered the first goal. It seemed like a broken defensive play down low, as Sharks number 3, who I believe is John Klingberg. Yes, number 3 for the Sharks, John Klingberg.
That actually, yes, I believe so. Let me double check.
Dom's a fake fan, everybody. He's a fake fan. He doesn't know the numbers. Fake fan.
I can't remember all the numbers anymore. There's been so much turnover.
Anyway.
Keep going. I'll find it.
John Klingberg, until proven otherwise, fell down at the blue line, allowing Seattle to get around him and create a pass in front of Ned in the slot that went off of a sliding Jaden Schwartz's skate And Celebrini, despite being with him, covering him, wasn't able to prevent the goal. In the latter half of the first period, the word was quality. The Sharks' quality started to go down in terms of quality chances, as a lot of shots weren't on net, but they were just missing wide over the top. Quality passes, and it didn't look like a lot of players for the Sharks were looking where the puck was going, and the puck was ending up on a lot of Kraken sticks. Their shifts, which were pretty unproductive, but Seattle also began generating off the rush and were simply in the way of the Sharks players and began to swallow up everything. All this was the case until the Sharks get a late period power play with a little over a minute to go off of Ryan Lindgren. Thank God the Avs have Burns now and did not re-sign him. From there, the Sharks were humming. Perfect tape-to-tape passing, getting chances at the net, and it was a beautiful shot fake from Celebrini, who absolutely sold it like an Oscar-winning actor, but instead passed it to Alex Wenberg backdoor for the Sharks to tie it up going into the room. Matt Murray, though, suddenly exited the game after the play with an assumed groin injury and was replaced by Grubauer with about 17 seconds left. Period 2. The Sharks once again came out hot and heavy as they truly started to unload on Seattle with a fresh netminder and began to take a commanding lead in overall shots. It felt like they were shifting the offensive momentum back in their direction as the Kraken struggled to then contain them at the start. This was until a bad call on Barclay Goodrow with a hooking call when it should have been a holding the stick on Seattle's Riker Evans. The Sharks, whose penalty kill up to that point had been very good, 23 for 24 for their last 24, started the kill, and they started their kill off efficiently and effectively, not letting Seattle get set up before drawing a penalty of their own, which they weren't able to do much with, unfortunately. Then it happens. At halfway through the second period, the Sharks continue their pressuring attack, and Will Smith gets a breakaway in and alone against Grubauer. He makes a slick move, but Gru stops the puck on his pad. Where was I? Gru stops the puck on his pad. Will Smith is then pressured from behind and spins around. The puck then gets caught on and goes in off of Will Smith's skate into the net. And the net is also knocked off the goal. The referee waves this off, and it is ruled after a review from Toronto. It is ruled a no goal, not because of the net coming off, because the puck went in far before that, but because Will Smith kicked it, so they claim. If that is a kick, and what Emil Heineman did in the Avs game isn't, or what Jaden Schwartz did earlier in that game isn't, I don't know what to say. Will Smith didn't even know where the puck was. Have you seen the replay of this, Dom?
I have, and the most
Beyond
used
infuriating
chant across the NHL today is bullshit and ref, you suck. And that's what I have to say about that, because they're used across the league for a reason. They're boring and they're simple, and they're also correct in this instance.
I mean, some of these can be debated. Like, for example, the Dallas no goal against the Islanders was ruled goaltender interference. That's debatable, I think, especially with how thin the line and understanding of goaltender interference is. You can debate that. This is a non-debatable one. And I knew this was coming, and seeing it happen live was just insane. It was batshit insane, because a kick and goal, there has to be a definitive kicking motion. You watch this and you're like, where is that? That does it. Go watch it. Go watch the replay, everybody. I don't care who you are. It's not a kick and goal. It should have counted. The Sharks should have gotten the lead, and I'm sure this did not help their momentum at all going forward, because all of a sudden, a minute of disaster strikes. The Sharks outplayed the Kraken nearly the entire second period. And I wouldn't even say that Grubauer, who had been perfect so far, was playing super great either. The Kraken just clustered in front of him to prevent any slot shots. The Sharks were rolling, and it felt like only a matter of time until they broke through again, until a little over 3 minutes remaining, when the Kraken just had two good shifts to strike, and they suddenly go up by two. Just good screens and good shots that Ned couldn't really do much about, and suddenly the game tone changed in a heartbeat. Period 3 was just a special team stalemate as both teams traded penalties and power plays back and forth, just like the play. The Sharks tried to get anything going, but the constant stoppages just slowed them down. And because Seattle already had the lead at that point, they just needed to play good enough and defensively. And again, I don't think that Grubauer was stellar. I think the Sharks overall were the better team in this game. I think they got absolutely cocked out of a goal. And I think that could have changed the momentum of the game seriously. But I mean, besides maybe the latter half of the first period, I don't think the Sharks played a bad game. They just got the shaft end of the stick.
I mean, I obviously didn't get to watch the whole game live, but from what I saw in the highlights and from rewatching more of what I could from different outlets, just trying to get as much of the game as I could, it felt that way. It felt like a little bit back and
My
forth.
eyes
but
told me
that the Sharks had quality chances at other points in the game. They just weren't going home. And that's where I was getting annoyed about Grubauer earlier, because of all people, why is he deciding to just stand on his head for
let
a
me
night?
tell you, we played them in the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened. He was so ass the entire regular season. All of a sudden, he wants to be Martin Brodeur. Like, who are you? So I understand.
Yeah, frustrating. Obviously, both games against the Kraken were played at Seattle, so the remaining games of the year will be played in San Jose. We'll see if the Sharks can get that one back, but at least they split on the road over the course of a season. We'd like to say that's probably good. If you can win your games at home and take one off the opponent on the road, that means you'd win the series. So that's the glass half full approach to this loss, because the Sharks were absolutely dominant in their win against the Kraken not too long ago. So I know they are capable of winning this game and being the better team by the end of the season.
So there you go, everybody. My guest San Jose Sharks analysis. How'd I do, Dom? How'd I do?
Thank you. I thought it was great. Thank you for doing that analysis. I especially liked the emphasis in the call on the Barclay Goodrow false penalty, the penalty that was called but was not a real one. So I think you got some good notes in there, and I really appreciate you going through and watching that in real time for me.
Absolutely. Well, finish us off, Dom. The one piece of good news for your boys this week.
All I Can Ask-y, part 2. No, all I really wanted to say about Askey was he was perfect in this game against Utah, and the Sharks were not. The Sharks were a better team on offense against Seattle than they were against Utah. And that I think they scored more goals because of a certain superstar player. I wonder if you can guess who. But
you guys have a superstar?
As a team, I know, crazy, right? It's we'll get there. It's going to be exciting. But Askarov was perfect until the third period against Utah, and that wasn't for a lack of trying by Utah. They certainly, I think, were the better team through the second period. But he's still, despite giving up a pair of goals in the third period, Askarov still finished the night with a .923 save percentage. So when I said .924 earlier, apologies. His worst save percentage of the month of November is .923.
How dare you?
Still super incredible, and was the closest he's been all year to pitching a shutout. Well, pitching. Goaltending? How do we say pitching a shutout, but for hockey? I'm genuinely interested in what that would be. What would be the equivalent to pitching?
I don't know. I mean, that's what I would use. That's what most people use. So I'd keep it at that. I'd say pitching a shutout. Yeah. Because I mean, I think it's more similar to like pitching a tent, rather than pitching. That's what I always thought of, rather than like pitching in baseball. You're pitching a shutout,
Okay.
like you're pitching a tent, meaning you're like assembling and putting together a tent. So you're pitching, assembling, putting together a shutout.
I like this approach and this interpretation. I will use that moving forward. So anyway, Askarov tried to pitch a shutout, but didn't. But the Sharks' streak, or his streak at least, of not giving up more than 2 goals per game continues. So that's awesome. But the real story from this game on Tuesday night of the 18th, Macklin Celebrini. What more can we say? Not only does he score a bunch of goals and make great passes and just show up and lead at the ripe age of 19, apparently, thanks to Ryan Reeves, he shows up in post-game interviews when he's the first star of the game with a new custom shark tooth necklace. And the only rule, according to Ryan Reeves, is whoever is the star of the game has to wear it without their sweater. So go topless, I guess, with only the necklace on, apparently. New tradition that's just started in San Jose as of the last game. Totally random. But, with all the things in the league, teams that have turnover chains and things like that, some type of player of the game award, I think of man of the match from when I played rugby. So I love the concept. I think it's cool. Are the rules and the wonkiness a little weird? Sure, but that's Ryan Reeves, and I think Celebrini was a great sport wearing that with no sweater in his interview. So I don't know if you got to see that, Corey, but I thought that was quite funny after the game.
Yeah, I to be honest, I thought what I was seeing was like one of those like fake shirtless things, like the bodysuit kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That's what I thought I was seeing in the pictures. I thought it was a little strange, but sure, I guess.
Well, and Ryan Reeves explained it, but he was saying they'd been using like a Kleenex box or a hammer to pass around, whatever they could find, really, for man of the game. So he ordered the
shirtless part that I thought was a little odd. I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's Ryan Reeves for you. He is certainly a unique character, and he said he's the one who bought it and made it a tradition himself, and said the only rule is you got to do it with no tarp, as he put it. So, I don't make the rules, but props to Celebrini for being a good sport about it, and I think that's also part of being a leader. Is if the guys want to rally around it, just stepping up and doing it, even if it's odd. But why was Celebrini wearing this without a shirt, and why was he the man of the game to get that honor, if we'll call it that? Well, let's jump to the first period, because it might not be Martin H's, but we do like scoring goals early in San Jose when we can. And Will Smith was with just a wild, insane, and inadvisable, honestly, pass on the first goal that came at a minute 47 of the first period. Picture this. You get the puck and you are standing right on the doorstep, and then you decide you're Will Smith's shoes and you're looking up, and instead of shooting the puck with no one but the goaltender in front of you, you stare that goaltender right in the eyes and swing a pass through the middle across to the left slot slightly behind you. So instead of shooting, when you are point blank range, you just look a goaltender dead in the eyes and throw the puck the other way. Stone cold savage. If it had gone the other way and been a turnover instead, I probably would have lost my mind. Warsofsky probably would have lost his mind. He'd be like, what the hell are you doing? You're right there. Shoot the dang puck. But man, what a pass. What just the chemistry that Smith and Celebrini have for Smith to find Celebrini on that. I mean, and Celebrini's not going to miss with the net that wide open. Corey, I'm sure you've seen that goal, I hope.
Yes, I did. Wait. Yes, I did. I didn't think back for a second. Yes, I did. Yes. You'd like to think no one would miss with the net wide open, but boy, have I seen the Avalanche miss a wide open net. Fuck. Carry on.
Yeah.
This is in the tank.
I mean,
not Avs.
It's in the tank, but I honestly want your thoughts, because like Will Smith standing right there on the doorstep, 9 times out of 10, we're going to tell him to shoot, right? And not throw a blind pass through the middle of the ice with no warning to a teammate, like, who may or may not be there. There's some next level intuition that these kids have from
If it
playing
ain't
together.
broke, don't fix it. They feel each other. They feel each other's presence.
Yeah. I mean, it was insane. Watching the play.
It was more insane that it got through two defensive players in front. How did neither of those guys pick that up?
Exactly. Like, that's why it's inadvisable, but at the same time, because it worked, it was so silky, you know?
Yeah.
But we didn't stop there. The Sharks were still starting this game on their toes, just going super fast. And MacLeod Celebrini with a second goal at just under 6 minutes when Colin Graff, I keep saying his name every episode because he keeps doing something good every week, and we love to see it. He forces a turnover at the defensive blue line and releases Celebrini on the break. MacLeod turned on the Jets and was able to beat everyone into the zone, get 1-0, and fired that one home for his second goal of the first period. However, this game against Utah, I said it before, this was no cakewalk for the Sharks, who once again had less opportunities and less possession than I'd like to see, less shots on goal, kind of less of everything except for goals on the scoreboard. And, that it felt like the game against Florida a little bit, where the Sharks were getting outplayed, but had the better goaltender, so it didn't matter. And they weren't getting outplayed as bad as it was when they played Calgary, for example. Like that, they shouldn't have even stepped on the ice. It was that bad. But they were getting outplayed by a team that is legitimately better. They were not making the best of passes, turnovers, not getting their head up. Just, I think it's lazy plays. I think it's just some of the growing pains. I think also seeing like Sam Dickinson on the power play, great to see that he's being given the chance, but also, that it's not been perfect. That's a learning experience, and it has to happen at some point if it's ever going to be useful long term. So I think some of the mistakes are excusable in this game. We'll just say the Sharks did get a win in this game. They were up 2-0 for most of it until the third period when JJ Peterka was like, wait, I can do that too. And so he was able to find chinks in Askarov's armor, score his own pair of goals in the third period to actually force overtime. Maybe not as quick in succession as Celebrini's were. These were separated by about 8 minutes instead of 3, or maybe 4, whatever it was. But the first one was pretty great. I thought the Utah Mammoth were just pushing all through the third period early on. The Sharks weren't intentionally turtling, but they were just being outskated to the puck every time. So it was really difficult for them to play a full 60 minutes, it felt like, Corey. I feel like you said something to that effect to me as well during the game.
Dude, watching that third period was painful. No offense to your boys, but it was bad. Like, nobody wanted the puck on their stick, and Utah was like, I will take this, thank you. Oh God. That's really what it was in essence in that sentence, is nobody on the Sharks wanted the puck on their stick, and they just decided that Utah should have the puck on their stick. The second goal by JJ Peterka was rough. Askarov had a straight line sight to it, and it just boop right through the arm. So that one I think was a little rough. But I mean, it just felt like it was typical Sharks behavior in this one, where they just couldn't close it out. And that was very frustrating to watch. And so I was nervous for them in OT because it felt like, Utah had really shifted the momentum back in their favor. So I'm glad it ended up working out anyway. But it was not, in my opinion, their most impressive period of hockey that they have ever played. Low possession for them in that period.
Yeah, low possession, low shots, not putting the pressure on Utah like you're saying. I agree. The second goal allowed by Askarov was not a good goal to allow. I do fault him for that one, but ultimately, like I said, his save percentage on the night was still great. He still made some better saves. So he was also clearly very visibly frustrated with himself. So I have a hard time lumping more on that when I guarantee he's
That's fair.
harder on himself than anything I could say. I can be disappointed, but I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's anything compared to how he felt. So, but the most brutal thing, and you sent it to me, was man, that was brutal to hear the Shark Tank fans booing Nick Leddy for not trying one more play, because at the very end of the game, he just kind of stood behind the Sharks'
You guys had
goal
20
for like
seconds.
20 seconds.
You could have facilitated a breakout. And he's like, no, we'll just play it safe and go to OT. Like, brother, at least try. Like, try and end it. Yeah. So I kind of understand the Sharks fans' frustrations.
Well, and that's where I said, and I agree, it's brutal to watch. Like, I hated watching that as a Sharks fan. It's
Like,
just
bro,
like,
please.
oh, it's disappointing. It's like embarrassing in a sense. It's like you're a professional athlete. Go out there and compete. Don't play to win. Don't play to not lose. Come on. Don't run out the clock just for a single point. Go play. But Corey, you're a wizard. You're a wizard, Corey.
I know.
Because, well, why don't you tell them what you said, or I can read it verbatim,
No,
because
I
I have
want
it
you to
pulled
say
up
it.
right here.
You say it.
It's okay. This is setting it up for a Macklin Hattie to win it in OT.
And what happened, Dom?
Well, first, you had to say, hey, what are your boys doing? Do they hate having the puck? Because in overtime,
They suck.
the
sucked
Sharks, the Sharks did suck there. But I mean, perhaps, as you put it, direct quote, was it a massive big brain 4D chess move by him? Him being Sam Dickinson, who, it was a bad pass, I guess, trying to clear the zone, but it was touched. I thought it was offsides at first, but actually touched by Utah with an extra skater on the ice. So, Corey, you called it as saying, did he purposely pass it to Utah? And I have no idea if it was on purpose. It looked like a bad pass.
We're just going to say that he did, because that makes the Sharks look better.
Yeah, well, 4-on-3 makes any team look better in overtime. And whatever the case, whether it was on purpose or not, I'll take it. It is so much better than a Utah skater in alone in overtime with all the momentum behind him. I'll take the advantage in the offensive zone faceoff. And wouldn't you know it, Corey, you are in fact fucking magical, because the power play, the cycle, the control, the Sharks finally put the game away. It shouldn't have taken that long. It should not have been that stressful. Askarov played well enough that they should have been able to win in regulation. But what have you? Nobody on the ice for the Sharks. Like, if you watch that whole power play, nobody wanted to shoot it. There was pump fakes. There was turning. There were people rotating. I want to say Eklund, it was, and Celebrini switched positions at one point and then switched back. But nobody was shooting. They kept passing it to Celebrini. He was the only one shooting. And you could tell nobody wanted to take the shot because they wanted him to get the power play, the overtime winner, tie a stat with only Gretzky and Crosby for the most overtime hat trick winners as a teenager, because that's a stat everybody knows and cares about. But man, that wrist shot that Macklin has is unfair. Like, how quick that comes off for it being a wrister is, oh, wow. Talking about Thanksgiving and being grateful for things, I can't express the level of gratitude I have that he plays for my team for the next however many years. Because, woo, that is impossible to stop and amazing to watch. So thankfully, I get to watch it 82 games a year.
The San Jose Sharks have
Soon
traded
to be
Macklin
84.
Celebrini. No, I'm kidding. They would never do that. No offense to your boys, but not that he didn't deserve the hat trick goal. But when you have blown the game and the other team forced overtime on you, not you came back and forced it. No, you've blown it. You need to shoot the fucking puck. Like, you can't be getting cute and be like, oh, let's get Macklin the hat trick. No, you need to win. Shoot the fucking puck. Obviously, it worked out, but I'm going to be mildly critical of that decision, but, whatever. It doesn't matter. It worked out.
Yeah, I would be critical of it too. If we had lost, I would be here like not actually throwing shit, but metaphorically throwing everything. Like
Yeah.
the cells in my brain would just be having a civil war with what was going on with that.
Yep.
But, man, it worked. You spoke it into existence. You saw beyond the matrix and anticipated the Macklin hat trick. So now, what a finish to the game. He now also, Corey, sits at 30 points in 20 games, 13 goals and 17 assists. So that's second on goals in the league this year. As a bonus fun fact tonight, Corey, do you know the only other players with 30 points in their first 20 games to start a season as a teenager?
Probably Gretzky, Crosby, and McDavid would be my guess.
Crosby, Lemieux, and Gretzky twice.
Yeah, that checks out.
That's it. Not even McDavid. So yeah. And the best part is in the post-game interviews and stuff, when asked about being compared, he's just like, I ignore it. I don't really want to be compared. He is so focused on just Macklin being Macklin. He tunes out all the noise. It's impressive. I respect it. I don't know how he does it. Honestly, I feel like as a human being, that's got to be so hard to be able to shut out all those noise and the comparisons and that pressure and just be able to focus on playing your game and doing your thing. But the great ones always do. Crosby did. I mean, McDavid has done it. McKinnon has done that, where the pressure, all the media and things, and just none of it seems to phase him. So, he's in that discussion for a reason. And even if he doesn't want the comparison, I do think it's very real. And I mean, sky's the limit. Like our announcers for the Sharks were asking in like the post recap of the game, and it might be the one that's also done with Brody Brazil. I can't remember, but it was just one of those like posted by like the actual Sharks team page about like what is his ceiling, and I'm like, you're asking the wrong question. That there is no ceiling. So it's I again grateful. I'm at a loss for words sometimes on what to say, because it is in a category of player that is above others. And yes, he's 19 and he hasn't even reached his peak yet. And the fact that Bedard is 1 point behind him on the season, played one less game, so he could also be reaching that stat. Like, these kids are both stepping up and pushing everyone in the league now. And so it's making hockey better for all of us who get to watch. Really, really awesome to see. But I'll keep going in circles here just because I'm dumbfounded at the incredibleness that is Macklin Celebrini. There's your one incredible, everyone. But let's get to the 3 Shark stars of the week, because overall it was a rough week of play for the Sharks. Yeah. So trying to get a 3rd star of the week feels difficult. Is it Will Smith with assists on 2 of Macklin's hat trick goals against Utah, including that first one that, like I said, probably unadvisable, but really sweet looking after the fact? Is it Adam Gaudette or Ty Dellandrea, who keep firing the puck on the net and doing the right things in those dirty bottom 6 minutes, playing with intensity and winning puck battles when they can and making the most of their time on the ice? Is it Ryan Reeves for coming up with this random ass new tradition? I don't know. I'd probably give it to Will Smith for the points on the board, and when Macklin's playing well, Will Smith is typically playing well as well. But hard to pick a 3rd star here, Corey, because of how bad it was.
I'd go Ryan Warsofsky's children, who he clearly sold for the Sharks' current wins.
Fair enough.
Hope they're doing okay.
Yeah, me too.
My vote is also for Will Smith.
Okay. Well, so Will Smith it is, and that maybe wasn't that difficult because hard to choose the 3rd star. The Sharks' top 2 stars of the week are obvious. It's so obvious. It's also difficult to decide which one. So help me pick, Corey. Is the Sharks' number one star of the week Macklin Celebrini with the hat trick, including the OT winner, and a 4th point total, 4 points in the past 3 games, despite the struggles, matching multiple records that are tied only with Gretzky and Crosby as a teenager? Or does my unofficial Shark Star of the Week and honestly month award have to go to Yaroslav Askarov for keeping the Sharks in these games in the first place, playing like an all-star goaltender with literally the best save percentage in the league in the month of November, 959. I'll say it again. That's 20. That's like 0.25 above the league leader right now. Who is the number one star of the week? I'm struggling here because like Macklin can't be the number one star from the Calgary game.
If we're just going for the week, I would pick Celebrini. If it's just this week, if we're going month, then yeah, Askarov. But this week, I'm going Celebrini.
All right, then, folks, you heard it here first. My co-host of In the Tank, he did his part. He covered a game. He will be the tiebreaker. So your first star of the week is the one, the only, the great. I'm gonna say Mac Attack here because I think you're gonna allow it for this once. But Macklin Celebrini, he is your first star of the week. Yaroslav Askarov is truly an incredible second star of the week who sometimes does not get enough appreciation, but I hope to make up for that here. And at number 3, we'll call it Will Smith. But thank you for swimming around and on a unique episode of The Tank tonight, everyone.
Absolutely. Your 3 Avs players of the week are Big Cock Brock Nelson, Martin Netchis, and Scott Wedgewood. Obviously. I mean, how could I not make a Scott Wedgewood? It feels appropriate. So me and Dom are both gushing about our goaltenders this week. So it's a good week for goalies. Your fun fact this week, presented to you by Dom from the Tank. I have no idea what it's going to be. So this is going to be a surprise for all of us, everybody.
So I got on this one randomly. I am a football fan as well, as you all know, and I bought a jersey for one of my favorite young players who happens to wear the number 0. And it got me thinking.
Allowed?
It is allowed in football. They changed the rules recently. That's also why players in different positions aren't fixed to a set range of numbers anymore. Anyone can wear any number at this point, which is super cool. But it got me thinking, we know 99 is retired because of Wayne Gretzky. But why do we never see the numbers 0 or 00 either as in the NHL? Well, we have seen them before by a defenseman by the name of Neil Sheehy, who in 1988 wore the number 0 jersey for the Hartford Whalers and scored a goal on Boston Bruins goalie Andy Moog. And that is actually makes him the only player to score a goal wearing the single number 0 on his back. Also, similarly, there are very limited players who have worn 00 on their back in hockey. I think 00 is far less popular, but it is was worn by Martin Biron, and that goes all the way back to the 95-96 season. So actually more recently. But it
95-96 was 30 years ago, so not that recently.
Yeah, more recently than 88 though. Yes. But basically, why can't you wear 0 or 00 at all in the league? And it is because in the 1996-97 season, the NHL actually decreed that across the league, those numbers could no longer be worn at all because it actually confused the league's database, the digital database. So with number 99 retired for Gretzky at the 50th ever All-Star game in 2000, all the numbers just aligning here. Every player since then has only been able to wear number 1 through number 98. However, there are more players who have worn number 0 before. Corey, do you want to guess either of them?
Would I even know?
Probably not. They're from 1934 and 1942.
Then no, I'm not going to guess.
So there was a goalie for the New York Rangers named Andy Aitkenhead, a fun name, who wore number 0 in 1934. And another goalie, Paul Bibeau, wore it for the Canadiens in 1942. Yet another goalie, John Davidson for the Rangers, actually was the only one to wear number 00 for an entire season in 1977-78. And he actually was heckled for this by fans who used to joke if his jersey number was his IQ. So, very unique.
That's mean.
Yeah. And ironically, though, he originally wore number 30 and switched at the suggestion of his team captain, Phil Esposito. So his captain accidentally got him heckled.
Damn.
But anyway, this started as a random wondering why we never see 0 or 00 in the NHL, because it's back in the NFL. And as it turns out, very few players have ever worn it anyway, and only one has ever scored. So shout out to Neil Sheehy as the only player to ever score wearing the number 0.
Thank you, Dom. That was a really cool fact. I had never even thought about that. So thank you for bringing that insight to all of us. I have something stupid unrelated to that, but I just want to dwell on that for a second. That was neat. I genuinely never knew that. All right. You hit me with a new
shout
bit of
out the wonderful
today.
people. Shout out the wonderful people at NHL.com who make it very easy to sometimes find articles on obscure facts. When I just started looking up number 0, and I was able to dig into a few different articles written over the years that were able to help inform this information.
There you go. Well, do you remember earlier
Dave Stubbs?
Oh, sorry. You cut out.
Dave Stubbs, who's in.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, my bad.
Pause. Not your fault. I started talking. You would cut out. Dave Stubbs.
Dave Stubbs. I just want to give credit there because his article was the most helpful in being able to bring you this fun fact today, written in 2020 as an NHL columnist. So I was able to find some fun things online that led me to this article that really had the meat on the bone with some of those extra players who wore number 0 and 00 over the years.
Then thank you, Mr. Dave Stubbs. Do you remember earlier when I talked about Eetu Luosterainen getting injured for the Panthers?
I do actually, yeah.
So the reason he was injured is he's week to week after suffering burns during a barbecue accident. What is happening? Like, keep players in their house, keep them away from dinner, evidently. This comment section is one of the funniest things I've ever read also, because they were talking about imagine when players get to Thanksgiving at this point. And this person said Connor Bedard sidelined for at least 2 weeks after accidentally being warped through time by a particularly good green bean casserole. Which, that made me laugh really hard. Like, players better be careful if they celebrate American Thanksgiving at all, because my God, man. Like, that's just...
Well, it's
the
not
fact
just...
that there's 2, like, cooking and food-related injuries in the same week, it just makes no sense.
Well, and it's not even just this week or just the NHL, because over the summer with the 4th of July, there was a football player in the NFL, Najee Harris, who, like, missed, like, all of training camp because he, like, got hit in the eye or in the face by firework. So, like, players, you're professionals, make good choices, protect your assets, which in these cases are typically your hands in these sports, and your feet and your eyes, so you can play the sport. Please, for all of our sakes, yourselves included, primarily yourselves. Don't injure yourself, please. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, seriously. Well, we'll wish you a happy Thanksgiving next week when we bring you our episode, because it'll come out the day before. But one last thing before I take y'all home is the podcast finally officially and organically reached 20 followers on Spotify. That is, we have subscribers on YouTube and other platforms, but just in Spotify specifically, We've reached 20 followers, so we really appreciate you, genuinely and truly appreciate all of you hitting that follow button, enjoying what you're hearing. And we also have learned that there have been a few voices out in the public sharing the name of this show. So, my God, that genuinely means everything to us. So, thank you. From the bottom of our hearts. Truly, it is not possible for us to do this without all of you. It may seem small in your mind, but it is so major to us. So thank you. Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche Sharks or just hockey in general, reach out to us on our socials or email, and we'll be happy to try and answer it. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and to share this podcast everywhere you can with everyone you can. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And I'm Dom from the Tank.
Check out our new episodes every Thursday. Thanks, everyone.